How are you,
Yay!
Mary Beth?
I'm wonderful. I'm so happy to see you. I feel like I haven't seen you in 100 years.
I know. I think it has been 100 years, actually. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Um, but you've been busy. My God, you've got a new studio space, and
Yes, we're in the new studio space. At the risk of making everything blurry, I'm not going to take y'all on a tour. It's little, but everything except the yarn. The yarn's still at my home studio. But with the pandemic, I had some unexpected guests that came for a week and stayed for 3 months. So it's getting a little tight in there. And one of the things I sort of wanted to put out in the air that I wanted to talk about today was sort of my pivot back towards being more multi-crafty after many years of focusing on one technique. And I think that's something that's sort of happening in the ether right now. And I thought that might be interesting to some of your viewers. So I kind of wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But with my adding some other crafts back into my repertoire, frankly, there's just not enough room for the equipment. And then again, without making this a big tragedy interview, many of you remember, I know Pia helped me greatly. I lost my home and studio in Hurricane Florence in 2018. So that was 18 months ago. So I'm in a teeny tiny house right now and I love it. I love my teeny tiny house, but it's 400 square feet smaller than my old place. So I need the room, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Every craft has like a whole room worth of stuff that you need, right? Like there's never enough space. Yeah, I'm
well, the other thing that makes me laugh now, there's no place to donate, man.
Right. Because nobody's accepting anything right now.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so again, as some of you might know, I'm one of the video hosts for Your Inspirations. So that means boxes of yarn come to my house every month. And I use what I need and I keep them for a little while to make sure the videos that I work on go up. And then they have to go somewhere because, again, tiny house, don't have that much room. Particularly, I love Burnett blanket. I shoot a lot of Burnett blanket, but those skates are this big.
Which is funny because I happen to know that you get as much yarn in a month as I have total right now. Like, because I've been doing the whole de-stashing thing for a couple of years, and now I finally whittled it down to where I have almost nothing. And you get like these giant orders every month. It's awesome though. I know when the virus hit, I was really worried because I was like, what if the yarn company stops sending yarn? I've just finished de-stashing.
Yeah, well, I see some other friends of ours, and I went, we got you, don't worry about it.
I know. I remember that.
Look,
I remember
not
that.
a problem.
Yeah, that changed a lot for us, though. You pivoted to doing masks for a while. That was all you had time for.
We did, and so hookforlifepublishing.com is where my craft blog is. I've been doing knitting and crocheting since 2008, but I was always a multi-crafter. And what a lot of people don't know is I was a professional seamstress in the entertainment industry for many years. I worked on Broadway, I worked on feature films, I worked on television shows, etc. So I'm really going back now. My mother was a Depression baby, and if she wanted something, she made it. So my mother was super, super crafty, but not like we are, not like for a hobby or because it was relaxing. It was more like, darn it, I need seat covers for the dining room, so I better get out the needle point.
This is how we have clothes, yeah.
Right, exactly. So I learned to sew on a sewing machine. I was 8 years old. But my mother did it, so I did it. You know what I mean? So sewing was my first love. I learned to knit at a very young age. I learned to crochet at a very young age. And from a business perspective, 10 years ago, they were telling us all to niche down, niche down, niche down.
Right.
And recently I'm like, I'm too old to be told what to do by some guru on the internet. And B, I miss doing some of the other stuff.
Right.
So last year, I started a second brand, which is called Tailor Made Cosplay. T-A-I, not Taylor Swift, Taylor like I know how. And I work with now 6 young adults, and we do art projects together. We do costumes. we were going out into the world and going to cosplay cons and doing competitions and winning lots of prizes, which was very gratifying. And I was talking to fabric companies about working with, like, everything was going great. And then the pandemic hit, and we lost 8 events in a row.
Wow. I didn't know you had 6. I thought you only had 3 people working for you.
Oh no,
Wow. It got bigger. But okay, so I'm going to pause you for 1 second. Anybody who's
don't work
watching.
for me, they work with me.
Oh, with you. I'm sorry. I'm going to pause you for 1 second.
You don't have to be sorry. It's what I like about it. First off, I'm sewing again, which it was my first love. You know,
right.
No offense to people, but sewing was my first love. I love having my gang ranges in age from 21 to 28. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of really cool to have that younger energy around me because they're so happy about things and I'm such a jaded pain in the butt.
You are not.
So it's kind of really cool to have them be excited to go out in the world, do things that I'm like,
right.
You know.
Right.
It's also way more collaborative. You know what I mean? Whereas like if I design a shawl and I put the shawl, you either like it or you don't, you buy it or you don't, you make it or you don't.
Right.
The things that I'm creating with my team
mm-hmm.
are way more collaborative, and it gives me way more ways to execute our collective vision because there's stuff that I can't do that they can't do. There's stuff that they can do and vice versa. There's stuff that like none of them sew.
Right.
You know, but I'm also not a cosmetologist and I can't cut wigs. You know what I mean?
Right.
And one of them's a graphic, 3 of them do fine art, and one of them's really into EVA foam. And so it's cool to sort of put all these things together.
And cosplay really does take all of that to make it happen. So I want to tell the viewers, if you want to check out your store, just before we get any further, the link is in the description on the video, or if you're on Zoom, it's in the chat. Nice. I like it.
One of our t-shirts.
It's one of the things in your store?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so I will let you talk again. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. You've met me. I feel like I haven't had don't tell the kids. I haven't had adult conversation in a really long time. So we already had an Etsy store set up. So one of my gang, several of them were unemployed. One of them said, hey, we should sew some face masks and sell them. And I went, oh, you know, there's already 250 pages of listings on Etsy. We're going to sell any. And then Etsy sent a message out and said, hey, we're looking at the algorithm, we're doing research, and we're going to be out in face masks by next Tuesday. So if any of you can sew masks, you should try and sell some. So I also do some charitable work with masksnow.org. I did some videos for them, and I was helping them fundraise and helping them find wholesalers to purchase supplies at wholesale so they could keep the sewists going. And masksnow.org, again, I'm not here to talk politics or whatever, but masksnow.org's mission is to get homemade masks to people who want them and not to people who don't.
Perfect.
Because if you donate stuff to a company, a hospital that can't use it, then you're just wasting your resources and their time because somebody has to do it. So they collect information from companies that want masks and get it to the home sewers who want to make them so everybody's happy, yada. Perfect. So love that. So this is their 3-panel pleated mask. So it's cotton on the front, cotton on the back, and it has a layer of non-fusible Pellon interfacing on the inside to give extra protection, elastic loops, yada, yada, yada. So,
and you taught me something with that, because I was going to look at making masks myself before. I bought a couple masks from you, for those who don't know. But I was going to look into trying making them myself, and I was going to use fusible interfacing. And I found out why that's not a good idea.
It's a terrible idea because nobody wants to breathe in those chemicals.
Yeah.
So because of working with masks now, I had done a bunch of research. So I thought, well, I'll put a couple of masks up on Etsy and see what happens. And what happens is we sold 500 of them and I didn't sleep for a month.
Yeah, I remember that.
the bigger point, though, coming back for those of you, I see, and I don't know your demographic on who watches this. This is mostly business people, is it mostly not?
It's
but
mostly crocheters, I think. Mostly crocheters and a few knitters, but.
right, but I mean people who are in our industry or.
Oh, no, hobbyists.
Hobbyists.
Yeah.
Then shut up about business pivots.
No, talk about business pivots. It's cool. Everybody's in a business of some kind.
The thing that a small company can do that a big company cannot is pivot. So again, I always joke about how old I am, but I was on eBay, not the first year it was out, but very early. And this was when I had a completely different company. This is more like my 5th company. And so we were making a bunch of money on eBay, but I didn't push it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think that it's going to end. You think like, here's this new thing and it's really great and I'm making a bucket of money, so I'm just going to do this. And then you don't think about, well, in 6 months when there's 10 million people or there's more company, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had always said to myself, if I'm ever in a position again when I am on the crest of something with something that's blowing up, I'm going to milk it for all it's worth until it's over.
Right.
So
and it has slowed down now, right?
It has slowed way down, and I hope that means that people have all the masks they need, and it's good for me because it's still not my primary means of income is being a video producer in the craft industry. Right. That is how I make the bulk of my money. So it's good that I can go back and do more of that, so I can pay bills and stuff.
Yep.
But
and we're racing on YouTube followers, so you gotta do some catching up this week.
All right, you got. Is ahead of me on YouTube.
Just like 2 people, I think.
I made the mistake of telling her this before we replied, and so now she's just gonna dangle it over my head.
I am absolutely. For those of you who don't know, me and Mary Beth are actually friends. So I can give her a little bit of a hard time more than I can other people. But
people are gonna go, God, Pia was so mean to the guest this week.
Yes, I know, right? Oh, I never want to do an interview with Pia. No, but I laugh about it. I laugh about it because the only reason I had any hope at catching up is because you were swamped with fans. Because you are like the goddess of video out here, and I'm like, oh my God, I caught up. But you haven't had a chance, and now you're gonna go Zoom way ahead again. I know.
Yeah. Well, I got to get something up first, but I'm working for a new secret client that I can tell you about in September. But I'm producing a video for them, and I am still one of the voices at Yarnspirations. Mm-hmm. So I still work there, and I do for everybody. I do for All Free Knitting and All Free Crochet and All Free Sewing and my own YouTube channel if I ever get around to it. And my YouTube channel is sparsely populated because I get involved in doing other things.
Right, because most of the video you do is for other people. It's not even for your own YouTube. Yeah.
Video all day, every day. It's just not mine.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to fall into the trap. I've got 10 videos I'm going to shoot for my channel, but the one that's going to write you a check. Right.
Yeah.
So I am a little,
which is cool.
But
yeah, everywhere I look, there's Mary Beth on video.
Yeah, it's funny. And it's one of those things, like, they say that cars are cars, but if you decide to shop for a red car, then when you go driving, all you see is red cars. It's observation bias. Mm-hmm. Now that you know that I do a lot of video, you're going to see me everywhere. And it's
you really will. You really will.
Now it's, oh my God, her again? Shut up.
No.
Actually, the funniest thing, when I used to have the audio podcast, people wouldn't recognize my face, but they would recognize my voice. Especially, and this is true, and my friends can tell you about this, if I was in a restroom because the acoustics. So like every time I went to a public bathroom with either my kid or my assistant and I would say, okay, I'll meet you out first. Somebody go, oh, that's getting loopy. So I signed more autographs in bathrooms than I care to admit, but it was the
that's hilarious.
Recognize my voice.
That is hilarious.
Oh, it is.
So you do, so you've got a lot of companies actually. So you have Hooks for Life Publishing, and you have
Yes.
Tailor Made Cosplay, and
Yes, and
is your podcast still going now or no? Getting Loopy.
I haven't done the podcast in years.
Okay.
I was ahead of the curve. I did 127 episodes, and we ended in 2013. And then a couple of years ago, I tried to bring it back, but Getting Loopy was always audio based.
Okay.
And people like podcasts like this now, where you can see the people, and
Exactly.
I was not there at that time. Getting Loopy is one of the, so it's called Getting Loopy. It was the only crochet-based podcast that was only crochet. There were other podcasts that did crochet and knitting and multi-crafting, but we were all crochet all the time, 100% of the time. We were the first and the only for a very long time. We did a new show every week. There were 127 episodes. And I believe you can still listen to them on Blog Talk Radio.
Cool.
Or Stitcher still has them. And some of them obviously are dated because they're 8 to 10 years old.
Yeah, but it's not like crochet changes. I mean, it's not like the stitches change. Yeah. It's
right,
still...
but it was also very business oriented. There are a lot. Here's why I'm proud of that. First off, we were working for a while with the Crochet Liberation Front. We had the Flamies, which was the annual Crochet Awards, which I loved. That was Lori Rivers and the Crochet Liberation Front did that, and I don't think they're around anymore. It started as a Ravelry subgroup, and next thing you know, we were producing the Crochet Oscars. You know what I mean? It was a different time, people.
Right.
So, but a lot of people came into the industry because of that podcast. Yeah. Because we did a lot of hobby things, and we interviewed everybody from designers to yarn manufacturers to the lady that designed horse things, you know, like if you crochet, we interviewed the lady that did the Mr. Rogers sweater. You know, cool. If you crocheted, you were on Get Loopy at one point or another. Yeah. Which was fun. But the number of people that are still in our industry today that have come up to me and said, I was in wherever it was that I lived that didn't have a big crochet community, and I didn't know how to get started, and listening to Getting Loopy told me that I could try. Yeah, exactly. Come up and said, I still get information. Like, obviously, some of it's just silly crap, you know, because it was fun. The other thing, we had a wildly active chat room. And there are
I can imagine.
Oh my God. And if you listen to the later episodes, you can hear me on the audio go, you guys in chat, are you actually listening to the podcast? Out and having fun. The chat room went off in its own direction and was its own thing. But we were appointment podcasts. People tuned in every Monday night at 9 Eastern and got in that chat room and went to town.
Nice. But, I think that was all before my time, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I didn't know you
But
then.
I've had people come up to me and say, you know, I was researching such and thus company or such and thus topic or such and thus whatever, and I did a Google search and one of your episodes came up and I listened to it and there was still valid information in there. Yeah, I mean, you give all the silly, you know, but there's still info in there that's valuable. But the number of people that I think came into the crochet industry because Getting Loopy told them that they could, that they didn't have to have contacts, they didn't have to be in New York, they didn't have to know how to do all this stuff, that they could learn.
And that was a big deal for me too when I first started blogging, was the idea that, wait, I could actually do this. You know, like when that first gets suggested to you, that's huge. Because you don't think of it at first. I mean, it's a whole mindset shift, you know?
Well, and I got started with the CGOA. If it wasn't for the CGOA, I wouldn't have a career. I know a lot of changes happening there too, but my story was very silly. I was writing for Yarn Market News, which is no longer, but it was a free print magazine that went out to yarn store owners and designers and manufacturers. Okay. And I was the person on the freelance staff that was really super into crochet. Okay. Most of the freelance staff, either their background was business topics or it was knitting. Right. So whenever there was a crochet article, They would be like, oh, you write it. You like,
You
know that.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I Vashti Braha on the
Uh-huh.
phone and Candy Jensen and Lily Chin. And
That's a good group.
it was. And Vashti Braha was my last phone interview. And we just clicked and we talked on the phone for 2.5 hours. I did a 30-minute phone interview and then we just talked. So she said, hey, there's this thing called the CGOA. And it's going to be in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania this year. Margaret Hubert tells me this is 2008. I don't remember. But Margaret is the keeper of our history. And Margaret says it's 2008. So
I would trust Margaret.
Yeah, it turns out my parents live 45 minutes from King of Prussia.
Oh, nice.
Katie was little, 2008, she was like 10, you know. So so I took her down to visit grandma, dumped her, and went over and met Vashti at the CGOA in King of Prussia. And that was the first year for me and Drew Morski and Robin Chula. That was our first year, and so we all sort of gravitated together and hung out for the subsequent 10 years. You know what I mean?
The OG of CGOA.
Well, the OG was Marty Miller, Nancy Brown, Jean and Rita. They were the OG.
Yeah.
We were.
Second generation.
I always talk about our design generation, and I don't mean age, because obviously there's a big age there between a group of us, but we came up at the same time. And we were also the bridge generation, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The group that came up that had started their companies, and then Ravelry started shortly after. So some of the OGs were not as accepting of downloads at the beginning as we were. And then you have people that were subsequent to us that are all download all the time, all Ravelry, everything internet based, and they look at those of us that are still doing print like.
Well, I remember when I first started, a bunch of the bloggers, like a couple bloggers had gone, and they were like, this is cool, you guys all should come. And then there was one year where it was like the bloggers invaded CGOA. And I remember that distinctly. And it was, now it, like, I think of us as the next generation of it.
Yes. You're again, I'm not talking about chronological.
Right, not age.
I'm talking about the cohort that came in together.
Yeah.
It was me, Drew, Robin, Doris Chan, Vashti, Brett Barra, who used to edit Crochet Today and now works at Brooklyn Craft Camp, I think she owns it. I don't want to, but you know, again, Brett was coming up during that time.
Yeah.
You know, we sort of all found our way together at the same time. And so I think that happens in the industry a lot too. Like, people start when they start, but you sort of find a cohort of people that are at a similar place than you are. Right. And how Myra Woods, Dee Stanziano, you know, we were all new at the same time.
I think between all your videos and the podcast, you know everybody who ever owned a crochet hook. I really get that feeling. Like, if anybody's ever done anything professional with crochet, Mary Beth knows them.
Well, it's funny because some of the manufacturers, like when we go to trade shows, when we go to TNNA or Creativation, or TNNA is gone too now. I sound like I am 150 years old, y'all. I've been doing this for 12 years, and it's like I'm over here in the corner shaking my cane, going, you know.
You're mama bear for all of us these days.
Yeah. Well, for you guys, I'm that brat upstart to the OG.
You're the one who's not afraid to say anything when we're all fuming silently, and Mary Beth's like, I'll fix it.
I'll fix it, or I'll yell about it. Those are sort of my thing. Some of that is my age, because I'm older than most of you, and I don't give a crap anymore.
Not by that much. Not
really. By that much, and enough that I feel like I don't have anything to lose at this point. You know what I mean? If you're not going to work with me because of opinions that I have, I research my opinions and I care about them, and I'm not going to let you crap on people.
Right.
So if you can't work with me because I think your contract is unfair, or you can't work with me because I think you're taking advantage of a group that should not be taken advantage of, bite me. I don't want to work with you either.
Exactly. Whereas the rest of us, it's like we're not well enough established to be able to say that. Some of us. Some of
Well,
us.
and
I shouldn't speak for everybody. I know that's how I feel a lot of times. Yeah.
but the other thing now, which comes back to the very beginning of this podcast, and I'm sure people are tired of hearing me talk. I'm also at this point in my career heading back to diversification.
Yeah.
So if I lose an income stream, I'm not going to be happy about it.
Right.
But I'm not going to miss my rent payment.
And that is so important.
I think
if you're
that
going
gives
to
me
do
a
this as
lot
a business.
of freedom.
Yeah.
You know, and it gives me a lot more freedom to stand up and yell because I completely understand getting taken advantage of if that $400 payment that should be $800 is the difference between you paying a light bill or not. Like, I get it.
Right.
But my income streams are so, I've got 12 books in print. I have 5 video channels. We started a 3rd brand, which we don't even need to talk about today. We're doing a lot of local stuff. I'm really into sublimation printing now. So we're doing, coffee mugs and posters and magnets. So we're printing all this
and
stuff
they're
in.
beautiful. They really are. Because you're in a touristy area in Wilmington over there.
I live in a beach community. I live in Wilmington, North Carolina. This artist is Alicia May Media, is the photography artist, but we're printing up her stuff. But again, this is all sublimation. I had to learn how to do it, but we are printing this stuff 2 feet from where I'm sitting.
Nice.
And
does it smell, the sublimation printer? I heard they smell bad.
It smells when you're pressing.
Uh-huh.
And I noticed when we first bought the printer, I could smell it. I could smell the ink.
Yeah.
I don't smell it anymore. I don't know if I'm old or if it's...
You've gotten used to it. You got nose blind.
No, I think the other thing, without going on about sublimation printing, you don't the ink trays out that frequently.
Okay.
Like, we've had that for a year. I haven't changed the ink yet.
Okay.
I think the longer the ink stays in there, the less off-gassing it does.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
I mean, and it costs $350 to change the ink.
Oof.
But you don't do it every,
Right, which is good. I mean, it's all, I used to have a laser printer that the ink cartridges were like $200 each, but we changed them every 2 years. So it was, okay, fine, because they were like giant.
Yep, exactly. So we're doing sublimation printing. We're working with Cricut now. We work with Plaid Paints. Mm-hmm. We have some fabric sponsors for the cosplay team that if we ever get to go to a con again, you will see some, talk about spreading the virus. Sweaty, naked people at a con.
So bringing it back to the cons, actually, I know for a lot of us, there's been a lot of like social change going on in the knitting and crochet world, a lot more talk about diversity and all of that. Is that shift going on in the con world as well, or has that always been more diversified?
See, I feel like there is only a limited amount I can say about this as a middle-aged white lady. There was discrimination in the cosplay world before the current round of protests started, before the pandemic. Okay. The instinct is that cosplay is a warm and welcoming world and anything goes. But I say the same thing about the cosplayers that I do about knitters and about crocheters. If you've got 10,000 people, 4 of them are going to be buttholes.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
They're nice. No, not all crochet. And that's not a crochet slam.
Right. Not all of anything.
Have a couple of buttholes in it. That's just how it is.
Exactly.
So there were problems in the cosplay community with people who thought their opinion was valid being upset at people of color cosplaying characters that were traditionally white. And there were a lot of, especially Black cosplayers, that felt threatened by people ganging up on them. Yeah. It was terrible, but that was happening before this. And it will be interesting when the cons come back, whenever that is. Yeah. It will be interesting to see what happens, if it's better.
Right, if there's a shift.
Exactly. So generally, I feel like cosplayers and cons are a very welcoming space. But I'm not color, so it's different for me.
Right. Well, I know it's not just even color though. When I went to Gen Con my first time, I noticed that consent seemed to be a real issue with cosplayers. The whole
There is a huge sexual harassment issue in cosplay because, particularly for young, attractive women of any color who are cosplaying anime characters, which tend to be drawn with minimal clothes and maximum bust.
Right.
They should be allowed to cosplay those characters if those are the characters that are meaningful to them without people touching or grabbing or whatever.
Right, right.
So I find myself at cosplay cons, I find myself being Mama Bear too. And it's interesting because we lost the cons when we did. Only 2 of my gang has been out in the world, and they were cosplaying Avatar: The Last Airbender, which are very modest costumes.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you what, I was aware of it from the get-go. I never let them out one at a time. They have to go with somebody. You know, we have the buddy system. None of my young women or men will go out by themselves because I don't want them to be in a situation where they feel threatened.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I think is really skeevy about cosplaying, there's a lot of people that are like, hey, baby, I'm a photographer. Come to my house and I'll give you free photos. And cosplay is a very visual, and particularly for the models who want to be Instagram famous and stuff like that, so they can get brand deals, or so they can just, you know, show the world what they want to do.
Right.
Brand less of a thing in cosplay than they are in knitting and crochet. But I've heard so many horror stories about young women showing up at these photography studios and it not being above board. So we had cards made that have first names only. And if you come up and you say, I want to take a picture with one of your people, I'm like, here's the card. That is our group email, and you go through the group email. You don't take contact information for any of us, any of the 7 of us, because I don't want that responsibility. If you are a legitimate person that I can research and you want to do a photo shoot with one of the gang and they want to do it, this is who you email, and it's not.
And the legitimate people won't mind. The legitimate people are like, cool, that's more protection for me too against being accused falsely of something. So,
but it's interesting, and I keep coming back to the whole when they cast a woman of color in the live action Little Mermaid, and she's like, well, Ariel's white. Ariel's fiction, for God's sake.
Ariel's a freaking mermaid. Yeah.
So again, in cosplay, I don't get it. I don't get a lot of it. I mean, because then you could also say, well, you're not Japanese, so how dare you do a manga character? I mean, right now, the big cosplay that, again, the really young ones, like the teens and tweens, are all cosplaying characters from My Hero Academia, which is my favorite one. And it's about kids going to superhero high school.
Oh, cool. That sounds like fun.
Right? And but those characters are Japanese. What if I were to come out and say, well, you can't cosplay Deku, you're not Japanese. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it feels to me like the whole point of cosplay is to take on an identity that is not you. I mean, that's like the whole purpose of it. Because there are not a lot of Indian characters that I could play otherwise.
Right. But this is art that speaks to me. I want to find other people that art speaks to them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So who cares what color you are? But again, I do know that it has been an issue. It will be interesting to see if it is an issue after, when the cons reopen. I will also say this, again, it's not my truth to tell, but it's something that I have seen. There is one con in particular where you go that is a higher than average cohort of African-American or Black cosplayers, because it is in part of the state that has a higher percentage average Black population. And if you see like little kids look at Black cosplayers with their eyes this big,
because they haven't seen those characters look like them. Yeah,
it's unbelievable to watch the little kids react to seeing those characters represented in a way that they can identify from. And there's nothing wrong with that, man. There's nothing wrong.
Absolutely.
But again, this one con in particular, you see it a lot. And I watch those Black cosplayers put so much, if little kids come up to them, they will stop whatever they're doing. They take that responsibility to represent their community very seriously. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. When this one we were at, there was a Black Batman and a Predator. There was a Black Wizard of Oz cohort group. And Anytime anybody under the age of 12 came anywhere near them, whatever they were doing, if they were eating, if they were trying to go to the bathroom, if they were trying to buy something, if they were talking to friends, they stop what they were doing and interact with the children. And
That's cool.
that's amazing.
Well, and that's
So
what it's all about, right? It's all
Yeah.
about the kids, honestly. It
I
all
hope it's
comes
better
down to
later.
that.
We'll see.
Yeah,
We
I
had
hope so too.
We had tear gassing in Wilmington again last night. We haven't had tear gas in 2 weeks. So,
Oof.
the world is changing. The industry needs to change with it, all of the industries.
Yeah, really. The world needs to change. But okay, before we get into solving world issues, or rather after we're done with it.
Coffee.
Yeah. Before we wrap up though, I do want to circle back to your store because we didn't really talk much about the other stuff you have. You have the mask, and what else do you have in your Etsy store?
We have the t-shirts, the cosplay t-shirts. We have, not only do we do local mugs, but we have cosplay mugs. This one says cosplay fuel. There's one that says hashtag #ConCrunch, which is the hashtag everybody uses on Instagram the night before when they're not done. We do D&D dice bags.
Nice.
We do
emergency kits.
The other thing we sell a lot, which always cracks me up, we sell a lot of scrunchies on Etsy also, which amuses me. But again,
scrunchies are back in now.
They are, but again, I do sparkly ones and I do fake leather ones, and we have Harry Potter colors.
Nice. All right, which house are you?
I don't know.
I'd have to say you're probably Ravenclaw. I would put you in Ravenclaw.
I read the books. They did not change my life,
Yeah.
I read them. My daughter read them. They were cool.
Yeah.
They're not a part of my life.
All right. Well, your whole gang is going to come after me if I got it wrong. So I'm sure they will. But we should probably wrap it up because I've taken up a lot of your time already. But I really enjoyed this. It's fun talking to you.
It's always fun talking.
I miss you.
I miss you too.
Oh, your virtual hug.
Her air hug. One of my clients is near Pia, so I used to at least get to see her on occasion, but I haven't been out there in a year. So.
Well, we'll see each other again at some point. I'm sure we'll.
I hope so. Thank you so much. So Etsy, Tailor Made Cosplay is the Etsy store.
Yes, and there is a link in the chat on Zoom and in the description everywhere else that I'm putting the video.
Terrific. Okay. Love you.
Bye.